I have no slides, and I'm gonna make you do shit. I started working at the Second City in 1988, and my first gig was as a dishwasher. It's not as glamorous as it sounds. One of the amazing things, though, is getting to see all these incredible people on stage. So in the professional company, it was Mike Myers and Bonnie Hunt and Jane Lynch, and it seemed entirely like magic. And as I worked at Second City longer, I realized it wasn't magic at all, that it was a practice. And I don't know if you guys know this, but all the improvisational exercises that make up the pedagogy, the improvisational pedagogy of the Second City, were created by a social worker named Viola Spolin in the 20s and 30s at Jane Addams Hull House on the south side of Chicago. Her job was to better assimilate the immigrant children coming into her care. So she created these exercises, many of which were in gibberish or silent because the kids didn't always share language. And they would come together and play the games and empathize and collaborate and communicate in all kinds of ways. She taught these, her son Paul Sills was studying at the University of Chicago. He learned the games. He taught them to his friends, Mike Nichols, Elaine May. You get where this is going. They formed the first improvisational theater in the country called the Compass Players in 1955. And by 1959, that turns into the Second City. So I ran the professional company at Second City from 1992 to 2015, and I mean, a total gift. My first cast included Stephen Colbert, Steve Carell, and Amy Sedaris. I hired Tina Fey, Amy Poehler, Seth Meyers, Jordan Peele, Keegan-Michael Key. I worked with all these amazing people, and it wasn't just me, it was just in this creative community. And then in 2015, I wrote a book called Yes and I started looking at how else we apply improvisation to the worlds of business. And I found myself sitting across from Heather Caruso at the University of Chicago at the Center for Decision Research, and I thought I was there to pitch an idea around improvisation and negotiation. Like, this could be a cool class. And I'm doing my rap, which is pretty good, where I talk about the fact that I think improvisation is yoga for your social skills. Right? Improvisation is actually loud group mindfulness. Right? That improvisation is a practice in being unpracticed. And while I was like, I am nailing this with Heather, because she's looking at me, she had a completely different idea. And her response to me was, Kelly, I'm a behavioral scientist. We have decades and decades of research that shows us that people make bad choices for themselves. You seem to have an art form and a practice that allows people to make different and better choices. And those two things have never been put together. And so we started a thing called the Second Science Project that looks at behavioral science through the lens of improvisation. It's fucking cool. We do research in the classroom. Scholars come up with ideas, and we don't have like all these level A classes. It's like 200 students, and we split them up and we study. But then we also have a weekly lab up at the campus. And we, sometimes scholars come up with ideas, sometimes we have ideas, and we create these executive education programs. So I want to give you, I think, like a show don't tell thing, right? So I want to lead you through a classic Second City improv exercise that we've been doing in businesses for decades. It's the Yes and exercise, which is the title of my book. And the scholars said, hey, they asked us to do this exercise for them because they wanted to respond. It was one of the very first things we did. So what I need is everyone, you can stay in your seats, but you need to be in pairs or trios. So I need an A, a B, and or a C. All right, everyone figure out who the A, the B, or the C is. The experiment that started. Okay, you got it? So we're gonna run through three different exercises here. Person A, here's the deal. We have had such a good time at this event that we are gonna have a reunion in a year. Person A, you are gonna pitch your idea for the reunion to person B and C if there is one. All right, and person B and C, you're gonna respond to every idea that's thrown to you by saying no in as many ways as possible. All right, person A, you can keep pitching your idea, try to get it through. You can pivot to another idea. B and C, you're saying no. We're gonna do that for like 30 seconds. Everybody go. And scene. Thank you. Okay. Person A. Person A who's doing the pitching, just shout out some words. How did that feel? It sucked. Anything else? Frustrating. Yeah, okay, I love this. Like work. Amen. Okay, we're gonna switch it up now. Person B, you are gonna pitch the reunion, all right? Person A and C, your job is to say yes, but. To every suggestion, yes, but. Okay, go. And scene. Okay, person B. How did that feel? Shout it out. Did anyone think it was better? A little bit? So this is what we say about the yes but, that it's actually a no with a bow tie and a top hat. You know, like you got the yes, so you're sort of like, yeah, and then right in there the shiv. You know, and that's often, it's passive aggressive, right? That's what that is. Okay, so the third one is person C or back to person A. You're gonna pitch this idea, all right? And the job of everyone in the group is to yes and every idea. I do not want you concerned with budget or the rules of physics or science or law. Simply allow every idea to be explored and heightened, okay? Ready? Go. Yes and. And scene. Okay. So every time we do this exercise, like it got like way effing louder in here, which I love. I'm very curious what you guys are doing for the reunion.
It was centered around food, and slowly each dessert represented a different part of our field.
You're doing food fields. Come on. This is great. How'd it feel? Better, great, right? And this is the thing, like I do these talks all the time for business groups, and there's always a dude in the back when I do this thing who's like raises his hand. He's like, if I yes-anded every idea that came in my office, I get nothing done. Two things I know about that guy: he's a fucking nightmare to work for. And two, he's completely missing the point because yes and is 5 minutes at the beginning of a brainstorm. It is at the front end of creativity. It is just a moment where you allow a kind of a crazy idea to come in. I've worked at Second City for nearly 30 years, and the best scenes seemed insane. We actually have a thing we do called Taboo Day, where your job is to bring in a scene that we're never gonna ever let you put on stage. And invariably those scenes get on the stage. Okay, so imagine we're doing this for a bunch of behavioral scientists, like pretty top people in the field. Nick Epley's in the room, some other folks. Taylor was coming by. And the very first thing that they say after we do this is like, you're doing it wrong. What do you mean? They're like, well, you're doing it backwards. It should be the other way. And we've done this a long, we've made a lot of money doing this. And he goes, no, you need to do it the other way because of loss aversion. Like, first I was like, what's loss aversion? But you know, the idea was like if you take away the yes and, you know, so you start with the yes and go the other direction, that's going to have a more powerful impact. So a week later, one of our instructors, Mark Sutton, who had been in the room, was like, hey, I tried it at the corporate workshop, and we always do yes and at the beginning because it's very much about how you enter with a mindset of yes and in these conversations. And I said, how'd it go? He goes, well, two things. It did seem to have a greater impact because they were pissed for the rest of the workshop. So as I told our friends at the University of Chicago, we're going to let the more performative aspects of our workshop keep yes and in the way it goes. So here's the other thing, though, that was really powerful about it. As we started dug into this, and we talked about, like, yes and is great, but what do you do when you have this, like, the conflict in front of you? How do you stay inside the difficult conversation? Because at Second City, we take these big ideas and we, you know, narrow them down into scenes, and that can be very painful, and sometimes we have disagreements. And we're like, what is the fourth element of that? And we discovered that it's thank you because. So the idea here is if we don't share the same view on something, my job is to thank you for sharing your view, gratitude, and then because. I need to then describe why it's important to you and what it is that you're saying, because then I'm seeing you. Individuation, self-verification theory, all these ideas. And then if the other person does that, then we're allowing to really see and hear each other. And we don't do this. What's the world we live in right now? We're just shutting people off. And we've done this exercise with caregivers, people in the medical field, we've done with executives, and it's been really transformational. So the big idea is behavioral science plus improvisation, transformational learning to change habits and behaviors. Thank you.